hear this pretty well. I have my microphone here, which is a little bit different than usual, but that's because today I'm hoping to tap on this, and I want the microphone to pick it up. This is an embroidery my friend Megan made for me, and the reason I have this out today is because I'm going to be talking about New York City, which is my home. And this embroidery she made me for my apartment says homo, sweet homo, because I am a homo. And New York is my home, which is why I'm using it for today's video. I was inspired to make this video because there's a current New York City mayoral election happening. It's the primary. And I've been thinking a lot about my home, New York City, and what's to come. Oh my god, that was such a loud car. What's to come in the future for my city. I guess we'll start at the beginning of my story in New York while tapping on this. So basically, my parents were both born in New York. They are both from Brooklyn. I believe they both were born in Flatbush in the 60s, along with a lot of other Jewish people. And then eventually, when they were children, my dad moved to Long Island, my mom moved to Queens, I think Rosedale, Queens. And my dad, then eventually, I think they both ended up in Long Island and then moved back to Queens and then moved me out to New Jersey when I was a baby. I was little. I was born in New York, but my parents moved me to New Jersey, I guess, at a young age. I wonder how the glass sounds. Also, by the way, how sweet is my friend Megan for making this embroidery for me. Back to my story of how I ended up in New York. My grandparents actually were born, I believe, in New York City as well, in Brooklyn. My grandpa, I'm pretty sure, went to Brooklyn Tech High School. And my grandmother, who's now passed away, once told me that she went to school with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't know if that's true, but I like to think that it is. I don't see why she would have lied. Anyways, so there's a long history, well, 2 generations and now 3 generations of my family living in New York. I grew up in New Jersey, which a lot of people like to make fun of. And, you know, New Jersey has its positives and negatives. But when I was a kid, I would always visit my grandparents in the city. And I had dreams of moving here. And then when I was graduating high school, I don't know why, but I decided not to apply anywhere in New York City. I think I just wanted to get far away. But as soon as I graduated college, I was like, I gotta get in New York City. I gotta live where my family is from, and I don't know, I just always had dreams of living here. I used to love visiting my grandparents, and they actually lived near Times Square. Like, they lived 50-something street. And they would take me to, like, the Hershey store and the M&M store, and if you're a kid who grew up near New York City during the 2000s, then you probably know of a restaurant called Mars, where they would take you in this elevator that looked like a spaceship, and they would bring you downstairs or upstairs to this restaurant that was supposed to look like Planet Mars. And, like, I just loved going, especially during the holiday time, going to Rockefeller and seeing the Christmas tree. I just loved New York always. But anyways, was old enough to move to New York, I said, let's make it happen. So I graduated college in 2017, and I worked for 2 years in Washington, D.C. as a teacher. And when I was teaching, I was like, I need to move to New York. So I started applying to jobs, just random jobs in New York. And I eventually got one, working as a consultant, or in sales, really consultant. I sold consulting services. And I didn't really care what I was doing because I just wanted to live in New York. And I moved in with a few friends in what was called South Williamsburg, but it was just Williamsburg where all the Orthodox Jews lived. So people had to distinguish between that and normal Williamsburg where the Whole Foods is. I loved living there, but ultimately it wasn't really my vibe. So during COVID, I got a really good deal on a place in Bed-Stuy where I moved, and I lived there in that apartment for 4 years, and then I moved into my current place last summer, so I've been here about a year. And I absolutely love New York. I think that it's the most beautiful city. I love how you can be, at an incredible Indian restaurant in Jackson Heights for lunch, and then you could be in Brooklyn and Coney Island eating like a hot dog on the boardwalk by 6 p.m. Especially for me because I bike everywhere. It just makes living in the city so convenient. I think I love New York on the weekends. I love going out and dancing, and there's so much of that here. So many lively personalities. I love taking the subway. I love that getting to different places in the city is so easy because of the subway and public transport. I love that I have opportunity to work here and pay taxes here. I wish my taxes went to not police and more so, social services, but that's neither here nor there for this video. Well, kind of is actually here nor there for this video because I'm going to be talking about the mayoral election. But yeah, I just really love living in New York, and I see it as one of my duties as a New Yorker to vote in local elections. So I will be voting in this upcoming primary election. And for those of you who don't know, there are two kind of front runners in this election. There's Zohran, I think Mandani, and he is like the more progressive left candidate. And then there's Andrew Cuomo, which is more of like the old guard establishment Democratic candidate. And if you've been following me a long time, you know that my channel name on YouTube used to be Leftist ASMR, so you could probably guess who I'm supporting. I'm supporting Zohran. And New York City actually has a ranked choice voting system, so you can basically rank your candidates from like 1 to 5, let's say. So it's not like in a federal election where you can only vote for one person. In New York, you can actually vote for, I think, up to like 8 people. And then if the first person you voted for ends up not getting enough votes in the first round of voting, then your vote will then be registered as the second person you voted for, and continuously until the winner wins. So like, let's say I didn't want to vote for Zohran because I didn't think he could win against, a Republican, and I didn't want to split the vote. That doesn't actually happen in New York City because of ranked choice voting. So it gives you a little bit more leeway to vote for who you actually want to vote for, rather than just who you think is the most likely to win Democrat, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that well. I don't even know if I understand it 100%. This video is so funny. I'm looking at myself in the camera, and I'm like, my face is like bright, and I'm like holding on to this thing, trying my best this microphone is right here, so I'm just trying here. I think I'm gonna put this down for a second. I don't know. But basically, I'm gonna. Basically, I will be voting in this election for Zohran, and I'll be ranking every single person on my ballot except for Andrew Cuomo, because the real thing that I don't want, the most important thing is that Andrew Cuomo does not win the mayoral primary election for the Democrats, because Cuomo is effectively a conservative. He is very pro-police, and he gets all of his donations from corporate donors and millionaires. And I would rather have my money or my vote support someone who is for the people, like Zohran. And specifically, one part of his platform that I am very partial to is that he wants to create like an institution. I think he's calling it like the New York Safety Committee, which is meant to make sure that people are safe on the subway without having additional police there. And if you live in New York, you know that the subways can sometimes feel a little bit unsafe. Not all the time, but there are some times where it does feel unsafe, and to have someone there who's not a police officer, can just kind of, their whole job is to just make sure that the subway is safe without a gun. I think that would make me feel a lot safer, and I think that would make a lot of other people feel a lot more safe. So that's specifically one part of his platform that I can really get behind. Yeah, and if you don't know, Zohran is actually recently polling better than Cuomo, and after his endorsement, after he was endorsed by AOC, so Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if you don't know who AOC is. Ultimately, I am pretty excited for this election because it is reminding me of how I felt during the 2020 Democratic primary election, the presidential election, where Bernie Sanders ran against Biden and was so close to winning. I felt so hopeless when he lost, but other younger progressives like Zohran are making me feel more encouraged, and like there's something to have hope for. I know that at the end of the day, politicians are never really going to save us, but I think that certain politicians can do a lot of good, or at least mitigate a lot of harm. And so that's why I am supporting Zohran Mamdani, because I think that he is the candidate who's most aligned with the working people of New York City. As a lot of you know, that I'm Jewish, and Zohran has been accused of being anti-Semitic based on his views on Israel. But to me, his views are really valid. He just wants Israel to be a state that has equal rights for all of its citizens, Jewish and non-Jewish. And that's basically what he said. But I think people are distorting his words a little bit to make him seem anti-Semitic. But in my opinion, he is very far from anti-Semitic. I have a feeling he supports all Jewish people, queer Jewish people, immigrant Jewish people of color. And I think that's a lot more than we could say for any other candidate. Anyways, like I said, I love living in New York, and I really hope that Zohran can win this election and do great things, like keep New Yorkers safe, and also freeze the rent for people who have rent-stabilized housing. So if you're watching this video and you live in New York, please make sure you're registered to vote in New York, even if you're from somewhere else, and vote Zohran Mamdani, and do not rank Andrew Cuomo. I think that's about it for today's video. If you have other questions about living in New York, I'm happy to answer them. I absolutely love this city. Like, this city in a time where things feel really bleak and scary. So hopefully you can all feel the same way as me.